What is up, everyone? Welcome. I'm having some technical issues, but welcome to the RotoWire #afternoon Champions League show. My name is Jack Burkart. You can find me on Twitter at Jack Burkart. I am joined, as usual, by Ryan Belongia. Ryan, we're kind of wrapping up Champions League, one last ride in the #afternoon show. It's too bright out to call it the after dark. And then EPL wrapping up. What are your thoughts on the season overall?
I mean, it wasn't a greatest season for me. Didn't do so well in King of the Pitch to end it either. So I mean, it wasn't a great year. But it wasn't the worst year. Took down that big slate on Boxing Day for 25K, which really helped. It would have been an awful year without that. Won a couple showdowns with some subs. Maybe we'll talk about that on this show. Learned some stuff. I don't know, but more so I'm just sad that soccer's over. It's nice that we got this game tomorrow, but at least we don't have too short of a break, and then we'll have Euros, so we can get right back into it. On a positive side, the contests are decent size. You know, by 100K prize pool for the main GPP, 25K to first, even 10K to first in high stakes, which is pretty nice. And yeah, Champions League final, so I'm excited.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited for the state of the lobby. I wasn't optimistic because there was no promo GPP, but 100K prize pool is really nice. 20K up top, so it's a little flatter than usual for soccer. So Ryan, I'll be interested to hear your thoughts on that, on avoiding duplicates and things like that. Maybe it doesn't matter as much if second place gets 10K. And even the lower stakes where I like to play, you can get 20 max and win 300 in the $4. There's a lot of action to be had, a lot of cash action. So no matter what you play, I think you could get, I think you can have a good time with this one. So shout out DraftKings. We're very critical to you, but this is a proper Champions League final slate. So I'm going to toast some decaf coffee to you. But Ryan, let's just get into it. It's an interesting showdown. Some things that stuck out to me. First of all, I should just say we have Dortmund against Real Madrid. Real Madrid are pretty big favorites, 60% to win. You wouldn't really expect that from a final, but I mean, Dortmund, they beat PSG. It's been kind of a historic run. Pretty normal goal total for this type of thing. Real Madrid projecting for 1.9 goals. Dortmund just over 1. And we're looking at lineups. There's not really too many surprises for Real Madrid. Maybe a center back issue. Militao is back, but maybe Nacho starts. Maybe he does one more game as a team captain. And we're going to have Camavinga starting at defensive midfielder, which is hardly a downgrade again with Tchouaméni, but Tchouaméni is out. Otherwise, a very healthy side there. And I think the typical starting 11 for Borussia Dortmund. Ryan, when I was looking at this, pricing's kind of tight. Pricing was not really tight in the showdowns in the semifinals, but it is pretty tight now. We got 11K Vinny Jr. We have goalkeepers who are 1,000 more expensive than I thought they would be. Any set piece guy, Toni Kroos is 9K. Julian Brandt is 8.2K. It makes it a little bit tough overall, and I think there's going to be a lot of viable lineup constructions as a result of the tight pricing. So what stands out to you when you first opened the slate?
Yeah, the first thing that stood out was definitely the goalkeeper pricing. Like I opened the slate up and sort of just expected to see 4K Kobel, and he'd be like the first guy in my lineup. It's been that way for like the last month with these cheap keepers, and they get there every time. We saw it on the last day of the season. We've seen it in these city showdowns, all these games where you have a big favorite. They've been pricing the keeper so cheap, and yeah, it seems to work out more often than not. But now Kobel's, what is he, 5,600 or something like that. So I like that, though. It makes it interesting, at least, because Showdown was, I don't know, I don't want to say becoming soft, but people are getting better and better, and just realizing that keepers are just the nuts, and captain and flex, and just I mean, I play so many keepers, and everybody else does now too. At least it gives you more of a decision. But yeah, the pricing in general was tough, or is tight. I agree. Kroos up to 9K, at least makes, definitely a decision for tournaments. Cash, I don't know. I wouldn't even call him a lock, but you're probably going to want him. Cash is interesting. But yeah, then there's not many punts either. You might be looking at a Dortmund center back in some builds. I mean, I think we have Camavinga down there at 4K. That stood out. I think him and Vinny Jr. are the only true locks for cash. You're probably going to want at least one of the set piece takers, maybe both. Yeah, I don't know. That's what stood out for me.
Yeah, I agree on the goalkeeper front. Just showed on this year. I built some like underdog goalkeeper captains with like 2,500 left on the table, and then like I would check, and I duped with three regulars. I'm like, okay, like there's still like so many people are building lineups with the same template that not leaving salary on the table is not enough. Like people just kind of know what templates they want to build, so it does make Showdown tougher. But I don't know, there's a bit more when things are more efficiently priced. There's just more viable lineups, so I think makes it a little bit more luck based, but I think that's better than just having you're just staring down only like a couple viable constructions. That was kind of happening with the semifinals, Ryan, where the pricing was so soft that you kind of felt forced into certain constructions. But let's get into cash games because I thought they were really interesting. I wrote an article and it will go on the site. And when I was writing the cash game part, I'm like, I really, really want Vinny Jr. as my captain. I think overall he's the best play. He's got about as good a floor as Toni Kroos, and of course, much better goal and assist equity. Vinny Jr. at plus 130 is our slate's most likely goal scorer. But there's other names that I want to click, Ryan. I do want to play Toni Kroos at 9K. He's not a lock, but I don't know how many floor points you're necessarily going to see. No one really on Dortmund that I feel really good about a floor. Maybe Brandt, maybe Sancho, but like no one who's a real lock for floor points there. And Real Madrid don't really have that many floor points as well. Jude Bellingham, I think, is a good play and in the cash pool at 10.4K. But I just feel forced into Kroos as I'm trying to get myself as many projectable points as possible before looking to goals in a match with a reasonable goal total. But it's tough. If I click Vinny Jr. as my captain, I have to fade one of Julian Brandt, Jude Bellingham, and Toni Kroos. Going in, Ryan, I kind of think I want to play Vinny Jr. in the captain, and I kind of think I want to play Jude Bellingham in one of my flex spots. I'm kind of okay going without the Dortmund set pieces with Julian Brandt, but there's other captain options as well. So you're the new cash game Showdown king. You can't wait to get into the streets. So what are you thinking about cash games?
Yeah, I'm pretty much on the same page with you as you. Definitely Vinny Jr. Yeah, I want to captain Vinny. But it's difficult because then you have to fade one of those guys, like you said. I think Vinny's clearly the best captain. I thought he was against uh, Munich in the last round, and not that he wasn't very high owned in the captain, and that kind of ended up winning things for me. So you give yourself another out too with the upside that Vinny has. He didn't even have that big of a game, but like you mentioned, there's really not that many floor points in the game as a whole. So you want your captain to do well. But like you said, you have to fade one of those other guys. If you want to play Julian Brandt, there's that it works out pretty. It's interesting how it works out if you captain Brandt, because then you can play all those guys. It's actually the only way to do it, and it fits perfectly with only Slaughterbeck. You can't even use anybody else.
Ryan, I got to
So,
interrupt you because
yeah,
I made the machine. I glued some toothpicks together and made my projections work for this. They're not very good because I don't know how to like compare different leagues, but the number 2 lineup is exactly this brand's captain that you're talking about, and you can play everyone, and then you can play Nico Schlotterbeck. It seems like a pretty good lineup, Ryan. You do get to fit everyone in, but I fear getting lapped by Vinny Jr. very, very much on this slate. And I think one thing I try to think about in Showdown is how many outs do I have? And it just seems a little bit thin. Like you definitely need Bellingham to do well, and you need Brandt to do well enough, and you can't have Vinny Jr. do too well. Cute lineups like that, they make me scared, but sometimes they're the right thing to do. But anyway, go on. Sorry for interrupting.
yeah. No, that's interesting because well, you kind of lose an out too, though, with Vinny as your captain in the other way. I mean, um, like I don't know, like I could see people that captain Vinny might not play Jude. At least I don't think I wouldn't think that'd be chalk. So you get to yeah, I don't know. It's tough. Like it's easy to see why that lineup projects well because it's really like the only combination where you can use those guys. Like I wouldn't even mind going down from Bellingham to Rodrigo, but you can't even do that. Like if you captain Vinny. Um, so I think that's another reason why that Brandt captain lineup projects well. I mean, really, all you need if Brandt does well, then you're home and dry pretty much. So yeah, I don't know. That one's interesting. I thought the machine would like that one. I thought depending on how much you liked Brandt, I thought that might be your cash lineup. Captaining Vinny, then you have decisions. Then it becomes difficult.
Yeah, and Ryan, when I find that I'm captaining Vinny, I'm finding that I have to play lineups that use someone awkward in the 6K range. Like I don't really quite have enough money for Sancho. And so I'm looking at lineups where I have Vinny captain, but like I'm either playing Marcel Sabitzer, who I like as a talented player, but I don't know, like the 8 point, it's kind of a he can get there and he's a good player. It's just I don't really feel good about that in cash. And the alternative is someone like Danny Carvajal at 6,200, who I extra don't feel good about. I don't know. Every time I watch him and I fade him, Ryan, it seems like Carvajal is just bombing down the wing and doing crosses. But I looked at his game logs. I wrote this in the article. He only has 4 games with 4 or more crosses, and maybe he gets a couple chances created. It's a big game. He's a really great player, I think. But I don't really like spending in the 6K range either. It just feel I don't know, like these guys have decent projections because they're priced at 6K. I mean, Marcel Sabitzer, he gets a shot or two sometimes. Sometimes he gets tackles one. He doesn't have horrible goal odds. It always works out. That's like, he's a decent play, but I think that's kind of wrong just to look at a projection number like that for Sabitzer and just say, oh yeah, that's a decent play. Um, I don't know what I'm asking. I think that's kind of that's the biggest knock on the Vinny Jr. captain in cash is that you have to play someone in that range, I think.
Yeah, it's a big knock too because I don't really want to play any of those guys. Like they're
Fede
probably
Valverde,
both.
6,600. It's
No,
like, ugh.
no, all three of them are too expensive. Actually, I think Valverde, Sabitzer, Carvajal. So I think it would make me like almost rather I gamble on Adeyemi or a goalkeeper. I was going to say a goalkeeper. That's where you just maybe play one or both keepers. But like, yeah, as far as those 6K guys, I mean, Sabitzer, yeah, you like how he plays 90 minutes. We've seen him get forward, but it's a tough spot. Valverde, and I've tried to make Valverde work so many times. And after watching a bunch of Madrid's recent games, he just isn't going to get forward anymore. And I know he said this, but like you watch, I'd be interested to see his heat map in recent Champions League games. It's almost like he's playing right back a lot of the time. And you mentioned seeing Carvajal so far forward. It's because he is. And it's because that's why Madrid are able to play the way they are because they just put Valverde back there and he can make up for so many mistakes or guys not wanting to defend. So yeah, I think he's too expensive. He is not going to get forward very often. Obviously, he can contribute when he does. We've seen him score great goals and have had that one assist in that goal against Man City. So obviously he's got it in him, but not from a floor point of view. And yeah, Carvajal too. He's one where it's not going to happen. But if they had a big forward or if somehow Joselu started, then yeah, you'd see the crosses from him because there's someone to cross to, but not. They just don't play like that. So yeah, he's far forward, but I still don't think he has much of a floor. That's what makes that construction tough, like you said, because what do you do? Yeah, like best bet's probably playing a keeper, but I don't know.
You're not really gaining much from saving the salary, though. I just ran some lineups with Colbo there. It's just like weird because you're probably going to play Kamavinga. I mean, as punts, Ryan, like Kamavinga is a very good punt at 4K. Like he's on the better team. He can get forward a little bit. He'll rip a shot. I mean, like getting 6 points from Kamavinga feels really, really good at 4K. And then you are going to be punting with the Dortmund center back, probably either Schlotterbeck or Hummels. I guess Schlotterbeck has a slightly better decimal point. Ryan, when I was looking at the Dortmund center backs, like they have like I know it's Bundesliga, but their rolling floor average is like 6 points, and that's not including clean sheet or anything like this. Do you think there's actually any signal that these guys have a decent floor? Like I think they're just good plays. Like I want to play one of them because they're cheap and solid. You're nodding, so what do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree. They're two of the better center backs when it comes to that. I mean, it's a tough matchup, but Hummels well, both of them get shots assisted. Hummels gets shots that they're always in the box. I mean, Schlotterbeck got the assist on that long ball.
That was a great assist.
In the last match. I think the way Hummels plays is risky for it to go the other way. I think Hummels is probably more risky for negative points or for a lot of fouls. But yeah, I think they're both decent for center backs, and just due to the nature of the slate, you might be clicking on them more than you would think.
Yeah, and you were mentioning this Julian Brandt lineup, and you can actually play that lineup with Toni Kroos. You just can't play Kamavinga. You would just end up playing these two Dortmund center backs, and I actually kind of think that's an okay
with Cruz
lineup.
captain.
Kroos captain instead. You can't play Kamavinga, who you said was
Yeah,
a lock, but I mean, I don't know. You could play
yeah,
two center
he's
backs
not. That's
instead.
strong. That's Lock is too strong,
Yeah,
obviously, especially if you don't need him in the construction. But um, for me, I'd rather have Kamavinga and Brandt captain than Cruz and both center backs. I just don't think Cruz puts up like, you know, I, I don't think Cruz scores over like 12 that often, and especially not like big ceilings where it's going to crush you. So
yeah. He's probably not going to throw like a goal on top of it. Although, like, he did score 18 points in the first leg
right,
of Bayern
he
when he dropped the
he
assist.
could for sure.
But even then, you
He's
can survive it if you captain Vinny, because Vinny can also get 18 points, and I don't know, you can just get the right comp. It's not a death sentence, so I'm just agreeing with you. Um, I think we've kind of done a little bit too good a job talking about cash here, Ryan. But one more angle that the machine was spitting out some lineups. You scroll a little bit down, but if you captain Kamavinga or Schlotterbeck, and I've seen good players do this in certain showdowns, you have no dilemmas whatsoever. You can paint the board with really good players and then maybe get up to a Courtois or something like this. But then in that type of construction, you're still playing one of these 6K guys, like maybe like you're still playing like Marcel Sabitzer. I don't really like that lineup, but it actually seems kind of viable in this setting. I don't know. Any temptation by that, Ryan, or should I?
no, I am tempted in that. Yeah. I was thinking about that too. I just think, two of like Brandt and Cruz. There's plenty of times where they're not going to lap Kamavinga, and they're going to be two of the more popular captains. So it's just not going to bury you that often. Like, how many times does, I don't know, Brandt and Cruz score around 10 or whatever, and Kamavinga scores around 5? Like, those are normal outcomes, and that's 2.5 points you have to make up. I mean, it would be more to make up on a Vinny captain, but you would have the firepower to do it. Definitely for GPPs, I'm looking at that, but I think for cash, it might be okay the more I think about it. I mean, I was going to say, going back to Brandt, it really just, everything rests on whether Brandt's a good player or not. We talk about him all the time. I mean, there's scenarios where he plays 90 minutes and might have like a 12, 15 point floor, but there's other scenarios where he plays 60 and scores 4 or 5 points or something. I still think all those scenarios are in play, so it's a tough decision.
Yeah, tough decision. And one of the other things about Kamavinga captain, if you really believe in Real Madrid, and I think there is a case for this because Dortmund played like 35% possession and 40% possession in their 2 legs against PSG. There should be a lot of floor for Real Madrid. Maybe you feel like they're aggressive in shooting. I'm not sure how true that is. But if you captain Kamavinga, you can avoid this mid-range dilemma by playing Rodrigo. You can basically do a full Real Madrid onslaught. You're kind of just like fading all of the Dortmund pieces. You're saying, okay, Brandt's not going to kill me. A mid-range guy isn't going to kill me. I'll just play Schlotterbeck or whoever cheap at the very end. And you have that extra Rodrigo out. I don't know. It seems viable. If someone showed up with that lineup, I'd kind of be like, it doesn't feel that crazy. And so I think it makes cash really tough overall, just to put a button on it that there's, viable captains in every price range. The best play is viable captain. We have Kroos or we have Brandt, who are viable captains because of these lineups that we discussed. And then even Kamavinga, just because there's no slam dunk play necessarily. But yeah, tricky slate, Ryan. Any final words before we get into tournaments and stop talking about good plays and start talking about bad plays and gnarly scripts?
Yeah, no, I think we broke it down.
So in tournaments, the first thing I like to do when I think about tournament strategy, especially when I write, is which players did we not mention whatsoever in the cash pool? And then how can I just jam those guys in somehow? And write names of players who we did not discuss who have ceilings. We did not discuss Nicholas Füllkrug, who's the penalty taker for Dortmund and usually plays 85, 90 minutes. So I feel pretty good about that. We really didn't discuss Sancho, and he's a little bit gross to get to. We haven't talked about Courtois, who's a little bit expensive. Ryan, normally I think 1-0 constructions are really popular, but Courtois Courtois' price is prohibitive and awkward, and it makes you fade players that you don't want to fade. So I'm not so sure that it's necessarily too chalky, as I often say, with the price increase. We haven't talked about Adeyemi that much, who's really pacey, plays 65 minutes, but he can make a difference really quick. And at that price, that might be enough. We haven't talked about Ian Maatsen at 5K, who has some big ceiling games in him. And all the names I'm not talking about, Ryan, are Dortmund guys. Is that an angle that you want to take? Are you going to maybe think about, okay, I mean, Real Madrid win this so often, I just want all the weird 1-0 lineups I can? I kind of feel more like leaning into the Dortmund side, but what do you think?
Yeah, I kind of do too. It's tough because you mentioned at the start the bigger prize pool and a little bit flatter payouts, so duping a little bit might not be the end of the world. It's tough to win a showdown solo. So yeah, then what you said about Courtois, the last 4 Champions League finals have ended 1-0, and Real are built for 1-0, or at least built for clean sheets. So I don't think it. I think it will still. I think Courtois or whoever the keeper is in the captain spot in the flex, I think it'll still be popular enough. Doesn't mean you don't make those lineups. I mean, I always captain goalkeepers basically on every slate, so I'm sure I'll have some lineups like that. But yeah, I was leaning more towards Dortmund guys. To your original question, we've seen other finals recently have goals. I mean, the World Cup final had 6 goals. I think the Euro final had 6 goals. And I mean, we were just talking about in cash how it's tough to make Vinny captain lineups. It's all the Madrid guys are expensive, and all the Dortmund guys are cheaper than Brandt at least. So I think they're interesting captains, can get you on different constructions. Yeah, all of them. I like all of them. Emre Can even. There's a Gigabrain captain for you, Emre Can. It's the same thing as Camavinga. How different can it be? I mean, his floor is not there, but he has probably the same likelihood to score a goal, to be honest. I mean, neither of them have a very high likelihood, but
Plus 1,000 at DraftKings Sportsbook.
What's Camavinga?
Let's look it up. Camavinga plus 1,000. Hey, there you go. They're the same goal scoring odds. So. Who's ever doubted down ticket DraftKings goal scoring odds pricing? Not me.
Yeah. So I don't know. What do you think?
I have a lot of things. So again, I'm plugging the article, but when I do showdown articles, I include some lineup starts just to talk about my approach for building lineups. I think it's easier to write articles that way. I do like 1-0 Real Madrid lineups, so I'm going to build some of those. I think it's really tough to build good lineups like that with Vinny Jr. But I think maybe the case for Vinny Jr. captain and then using a Courtois is that Vinny Jr. is the penalty taker. I mean, he took a penalty with Luka Modric. I remember a month ago, I was like, are we sure Vinny Jr. takes the penalty? He's like, yeah, Jack, shut up. He does. And he did, which is good. And I guess I feel like I need the penalty goal. Like he just needs to completely lap the field at that price so that I'm able to fade I'm able to fade Bellingham. You have to fit in the Courtois salary somehow. I don't know. It's just a clunky construction if you try to look at those lineups. So I feel like that sort of script just requires an outlier in that there's not much floor and Vinny Jr. just laps the field. So that's why I'm kind of more interested in like Rodrigo captain in my 1-0s, even Bellingham captain in my 1-0s. I feel like they'll be a little bit less represented in the captain spot because I still think Vinny Jr. is going to see some demand in the captain spot, especially because I don't think people are going to want to captain Dortmund guys. So that's how I like attacking Real Madrid in larger GPPs. Rodrigo, he can't project that much worse than Vinny Jr. It's probably a few points, and we're looking for the 80th percentile outcome anyways. I think he has a lot of merit. So I will keep on writing that Rodrigo is a good contrarian captain for Real Madrid. I feel like it's allowing me to play a sort of chalky construction on a chalky team in a slightly unique way. And I get access to weird combinations of players. Like, Ron, I can play a 1-0 with Antonio Rudiger if I use Rodrigo as a captain. How many people are going to be able to get to Rudiger? What if he randomly gets like 5 tackles, 1, and somehow gets 8 points? Like, these are types of things that I'm thinking about. Yeah, that's how I like attacking Real Madrid. And then Ryan, if you're going to play Dortmund guys, why not do a Kobel captain? You can do Kobel captain, play a couple floor guys on Real Madrid, and then pick, just do a bunch of random combinations of 2 attackers on Dortmund in a 3-3 type of construction. That seems like the way that I would want to attack Dortmund. I don't know. Anything to add to those thoughts?
No, not really. I mean, yeah, I really like Kobel captain. If you're going to go Dortmund, we've just seen him. They're going to face shots. We've seen Kobel's a great shot stopper. We've seen him put up these big ceiling scores in these similar spots plenty of times. Vinny Jr., yeah, no, I think he's a great captain. Obviously, I wouldn't even the penalty's nice, but I think he's also the most likely to score a goal from open play. I mean, I think a very likely scenario is Vinny Jr. being the highest scoring player on the slate and Courtois being the second highest scoring player on the slate. That happens more often than people think. So I think that construction is fine. Just Vinny captain, Courtois, and then whatever else you want from there. Anyone is fadeable, I guess, after that. So yeah, I agree. I don't know. I don't have too much else to add. That's the way I want to play Madrid. I mean, I guess another way you can play them is for more goals, like if you think they score 3 or something. But yeah, I don't know. There's only so much, so many. It's like it's tough to get different, right?
Yeah, we got a DFS Chan in the chat saying Real Madrid 3-0. So maybe that's what you want to do. He's talking about Emery Chan as well. You're very funny, DFS Chan. Got Z Drewski in there. I don't know if that's a pair right there taunting us in the chat. But thank you for joining us live. Ryan, what do you do in these? I'm just so used to scripting. It's so easy to script Showdown, right? When it's like a 1-0, because it's such like the set piece guys get the floor and then you get the goal and the assist and the clean. Like it feels so clean, right? But like when you approach a high, like I don't even know how to make lineups for a high scoring affair. It's kind of just like, I don't know. I hope it works out in my favor. Like, what do you look for when you're thinking about how is my lineup robust, even if there's a lot of goals?
I mean, you're not. I'm not the best guy to ask for this. I'll try, but I'm thinking to myself. There's a lot of showdowns where I make 20 lineups and every lineup has a goalkeeper. I mean, I think I play more goalkeepers or the same than as much as anyone. So yeah, it's tough for me too. I run into those problems, especially in these games that need to have a winner and would go to extra time and PKs and there's already like not that many floor points in it, but yeah, we're not playing for that. Like you said, we're playing for goals. The standard is to just leave out defenders, obviously, but on this slate, maybe it's
you kind of have to play a defender on this.
Yeah,
there's no good punts.
Yeah. So, and I think, yeah, I don't think Militao is going to start. I'd be surprised if he started. So I guess you still have Mendy. There, but yeah, I just don't see how they start Militao. Nacho's played so well, started all those games, been with the club since he was a kid. So, but yeah, I don't know, Jack. I kind of got lost there. How do you make it? Yeah, you don't play Kroos probably.
Yeah, you just play the guys who score the goals. It's like, I don't know. I've never really succeeded in that type of outfit. Like anytime I've won Showdown, it's like because of some goalkeeper stupidity. But that's mostly how I make my lineups in Showdown anyways. So I guess I shouldn't be shocked that there's correlation there. It's just a sneaky hard thing to do when you project a lot of goals, how to build your teams. I guess floor becomes fadeable and you just have to have guys who can score goals. But sometimes in Showdown, a weirdo scoring a goal is what you need. And it feels like I end up just building bad teams. It's tough.
Yeah. I don't really remember myself winning like that without a keeper or without a sub or at least a big showdown with that strategy. Cheap captain a couple times you can do that with, I think, because you get an assist from him, and then you can afford the goals. Those are the ones that come to mind.
Yeah. And so often these high goal affairs though, like I've done like the cheap captain, like, well, it doesn't matter because Vinny Jr. scores a brace, and when someone scores
that
a brace,
happens quite a bit. Yeah, sometimes you think it's going well, but then somebody scores 30 and it changes everything.
Yeah. Well, what do we know? Showdown's hard. We need Sims or something. We're just two lost people trying to find our way in this cruel, cruel Showdown world. Ryan, Milan Sengvi, sorry if I said the name wrong, asking Schlotterbeck or Rierson. I think we're on team like the center backs in this case. I don't know. I kind of am a Julian Rierson hater. I don't really see it. He always scores 4 points and doesn't really do much in attack. But I don't know, Ryan. Do you see anything in these Dortmund fullbacks if you can afford them? Matson seems interesting for a ceiling. I probably won't play Rierson, truthfully.
No, me either. But I actually like him as a player. The last couple of games, he was pretty impressive, I thought. But for this showdown, no, I think it's a nightmare matchup. He's probably going to be on Vinny. Remember what Vinny did to Kimmich last game? I mean, yeah, sometimes that could go the other way. Maybe Ryerson gets some tackles and some interceptions, but I don't really see him doing anything on the attacking side. I think you're more likely to get points from one of Dortmund's center backs getting a shot from a corner kick or
he's not going to
defensive
be.
stats.
He's not going to have 4 crosses, probably.
Yeah,
I'm going to say parentheses probably after everything I say.
Yeah. I shouldn't rule that out either, because there's others. Dortmund are a good team too. They're plenty capable of creating chances, and you get scenarios where Madrid goes up, and Dortmund do have a guy to cross to, so it's possible. But yeah, I don't know. I think the center backs is where I would lean.
Yeah. I'm more interested in Ian Matson because I don't think anyone's going to play him. I think he's just like one of these guys who you flip the cards, and anytime I can find someone who's decent and kind of attacking like Matson is at that low of ownership, I think that's fine in Showdown because you just never find anyone who's 12%.
I guess we could the question for the real question for Madrid, 1-0 clean sheet teams is who's the bring back on Dortmund? Do you want to go Brandt? Do you want to go Kobel? Do you want to go all the way down to Schlotterbeck? You can, that's another big decision, I think.
I often go with the try to get Brandt in there because I feel like, I don't want to spend too much salary on Floor from Real Madrid in a 1-0, but that's not always the right way to play it.
Right.
Sometimes,
what happens if it's 3-0, right? Like Chan said, and you need the Schlotterbeck one-off on a clean sheet team. Like, that stuff can happen too.
Yeah. Ryan, who do we like as for those who've been listening for this half hour, who do we like as subs? I mean, Hasalu should come on later. I don't think Arda Güler will come on, but I know he's like a really highly rated young player. He just hasn't come on in big games yet this season. Brahim Diaz at 10.4K. Which who sparks joy for you as your sub?
I mean, it's like no one, basically, just because can't even play subs anymore with Jesus Runner jamming 50 sub lineups into every single showdown. I mean, it's really annoying. Obviously, the more people start to play subs, it becomes a bad strategy very fast. In this showdown, it's tough already. I mean, the 2 showdowns I won this year with subs, I chopped both with Jesus Runner. I mean, what is going on? So it's really disheartening. The sub, yeah, you said. I mean, most likely to score is obviously Hasalu. We saw what he did last time. Brahim Diaz, I guess it's interesting, just right, because it's so bad. But he's been in such good form, so he's going to be the first to come on. Is what I would think, which is interesting. I think he's been scoring and assisting like crazy recently. I don't have his game log up, but still, yeah. I mean, that's not the worst. You can do that. I mean, captain Courtois with Vinny and just play Diaz over Kroos or something like that. It's doable. But I don't know. And then on the Dortmund side, yeah, Güler, he's been in good form too. I don't know that he comes on. I mean, he could. Kroos has been coming off. Is Kamavinga going to play 90? He hasn't in a while. So yeah, it's possible, but I don't know, man. Subs are tough on this slate. Honestly, the best subs might be on the Dortmund side, but this goes back to you need them to score. You need them to do something. And so, I don't know. It's a tough strategy on this slate. Dortmund at least have some cheap guys. That's what I'll say. But I don't know that they're necessarily going to come on. Like imagine Dortmund. Jack, honestly, the two guys that are staring at me, this is how bad it's gotten. Dortmund have two guys that are 3,800. So you're hoping that attackers, forwards that both play and that are both good. I don't know. One of them probably plays, but in that scenario, I would think you want a 2-0 or a 3-0 Madrid lead. 2-0 at halftime. Brandt is off, Sancho's off, Adeyemi's off. There's scenarios where that happens too. Like all of Dortmund's attackers are liable to get subbed in that type of scenario. But 3,800, you can at least stomach it a little more. It's tough on this slate.
Yeah, I mean, playing Mukoko instead of, if he comes on, I don't know if he comes on, but if you told me that he did, playing him instead of
one of those guys,
a defender.
Exactly.
I mean, I'd rather do that than he's probably not going to get outscored that much by Ferland Mendy, who I'm also a card carrying DFS hater.
Exactly.
of.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, shout out Jesus Runner, who's been crushing it. At least he had the decency to only finish in second place. I don't know if poor Ryan could handle the tilt if Jesus Runner would have won King of the Pitch.
Oh yeah, congrats to Jesus Runner, second in King of the Pitch.
A sixth season, probably the best player in the lobby this year.
A sixth season, yep.
My personal vote for the MVP. Ryan, I think we've done a good job breaking down the angles. Let's do one more question here. Camavinga versus Rudiger versus Nacho in a Madrid 1-0 build. Clean sheet bonus for the defenders. My personal take is try to get to Rudiger or Nacho. I don't think they're going to get played as much because they're awkwardly priced. So if you can make things work, and one of them randomly gets a couple shots, I think that kind of looks good.
Me too. And just, specifically, I think in a 1-0 lineup, like it's pretty likely that one of those center backs is going to score 6 or 7, and Camavinga usually doesn't score that. So you figure it's probably the right move too, and it'll also probably be less popular.
Yeah. Any final takeaways, Ryan?
Not really. I don't know. It's I think we talked about pretty much everything we could.
Like I tweeted,
hopefully
it's a good game. Good ideas. We talked about some bad ideas.
Like really, the only thing we didn't talk about is like center back, captain. People do that. It can win. They score from corner kicks. It's fine if you want to do that. I can't really do stuff like that, but.
I always lose when I do that. I'm just I'm not committed to that process. I like to build my losing showdown lineups in a slightly different way than captaining.
Like a crazy gigabrain would be one of these fullbacks. Like maybe they get an assist to the forward. You captain one of them, but
Maatsen is
very thin.
Maatsen is my terrible take player. Just awful. I think that would be
imagine Ferland Mendy getting an assist in this spot at 3,600.
I'm promising you I'm not going to play Ferland Mendy. And I am going to for the place where I watch soccer games has bad cell service. So fortunately I just wouldn't even sweat it. I just grab another Carlsberg and then just not even worry about it because I know I'm bricking when Ferland Mendy scores a goal.
Yep, Jack, he had 2 shots on goal in their most recent game against Betis.
Don't tell me that.
2 shots on goal for Mendy, so just know that it's possible.
Oh, no. Well, yeah, anything's possible. Oh, no. It's going to be pain. But that's how Showdown is. It's pain, but it's a lot of fun. Thank you all so much for joining Ryan and I as we talked about Champions League. It was a fun season in Champions League. I think the knockouts were unusually good outside of some horrible first legs that happened early on. Group stages are always fun, and it's been a pleasure doing this. Ryan, I think we're planning on grinding the hell out of the Euros. I think we're planning on doing daily shows as long as DK feeds us contests worth making content for. We'll be live in the Discord. So I know it's summer, but if you like MLS, you like a little So Rare, we got Deke who gives great So Rare advice and people willing to talk about in the Discord. Still a great time to become a RotoWire member. So rotowire.com/soccer trial for your 2-day free trial. Get your Champions League cheat sheet, get in the Discord, and then start grinding, whoever the heck takes set pieces for Slovenia or Serbia or anything like that. I'm looking forward to it, Ryan. I'm going to get deep in the weeds. But one last time, thank you very much. Good luck in your contests tomorrow, everyone.
Thanks, Jack. Good luck, everybody.